It's been a pretty rough year for McFarlane Toys' DC Multiverse in 2023, Soulmates, but which of the things that we've seen this year have been the absolute worst? Be sure you stick around until the end, guys, because we're going to talk about our honorable mention before we get to the #1 worst thing about DC Multiverse this year. The 5th worst thing about DC Multiverse in 2023 is not really a DC Multiverse thing, it's a DC Direct thing, but it's still pretty lousy. They're just taking Batman the Animated Series action figures and repainting them and repackaging them. We saw the Condiment King wave recently with Condiment King as the Build-A-Figure and Batman, Scarecrow, Mr. Freeze, and Robin. They were all lousy action figures, and they were lousy to begin with, and they're certainly not any better with McFarlane Toys doing a repaint of them. We also saw Alfred and the Bat Cycle, but that didn't make it any better. These are not the Batman the Animated Series action figures that we have been hoping for, and I don't know that we're really going to see anything better from McFarlane Toys in the near future. The 4th worst thing about DC Multiverse in 2023 has been these absolute garbage exclusives. We've seen glow-in-the-dark exclusives. We've seen sketch art exclusives. We've seen blacklight exclusives. We're really scraping the bottom of the barrel for exclusives at this point. And it's really obvious that they're just repurposing old stock they couldn't sell and shipping it off to Entertainment Earth and Big Bad Toy Store and miscellaneous other places that need their quote-unquote exclusives. I don't know any DC fan who is beating down the door for these. Nobody wants these. I think that the only people who are buying these are scalpers, and frankly, they can have them because these are lousy. I would say that I haven't seen one that is worth the time or the money, but turns out that the Swamp Thing glow-in-the-dark exclusive and the Titan Joker exclusive turned out to be okay, but that's just a case of a broken clock being right twice a day. The 3rd worst thing about DC Multiverse this year is the sheer number of gold label exclusives. There are more gold label exclusive releases now than there are general releases, and that is terrible. Every single desirable release we have seen from DC Multiverse, whether it's the Batman Batmobile 2-pack, or the Lobo and his Space Hog, or miscellaneous classic characters, they're all gold label. They've all been shipped off to store exclusives to the point where it's really difficult to get the action figure you want if you see a gold label you actually enjoy. It is one thing if you have an occasional exclusive that's slated for release at this store or another store, but it is another thing when every single release is an exclusive to the point where it makes the hobby completely unenjoyable, and I do not look forward to any DC Multiverse releases because of it, because it's such a hassle. The 2nd worst thing about DC Multiverse in 2023 is the constant and obvious reuse. We are seeing a lot of Blue Beetle, and they're just blatantly painting details over Blue Beetle to the point where it's obvious that they're wearing Blue Beetle's boots. No one is fooled by that, and it's really tacky. It looks terrible. And then they're also getting a lot of mileage out of John Kent Superman, and once again, it's really obvious to the point where if they're going to use this body, maybe they should make some new calves for this character as well as Blue Beetle, because whenever they put something new on these, it looks just awful, and John Kent isn't even good like Blue Beetle is. John Kent is all bow-legged and stuff, he looks weird. And if it's not John Kent and Blue Beetle, it's Infected Superman. We have seen so many Infected Superman action figures that I want to scream. For the love of God, please make a new Superman body, please, somewhere along the way. They keep making this Superman body, and he's terrible every time. And they keep releasing the Year 2 Batman body, and it is terrible every time. They insist upon it to the point where, are they even trying, I wonder? If you support what I do, please click subscribe and hit the bell for notifications so you don't miss a single video of mine when it comes out. And if you're enjoying this worst DC Multiverse of 2023 video, please give it a like, guys, because these are pretty difficult to put together, and I appreciate it. Before we get to #1, our honorable mention for today is the collector's edition releases. These have been $30 releases, and all these releases do to justify the $30 price point is include a build-a-figure size packaging with some lovely silver foil labeling on the sides and front, as well as a trading card base inside the package that nobody wants, nobody cares about, nobody asked for. And not only that, but these releases that we see in this line are only good about half the time. The rest of the time, they're utter trash. The second wave of collector's edition releases was good, but aside from that, Abyss was good, and then Captain Carrot was good, but everything else has been just awful. $30 for an Action Comics #1 Superman on the infected Superman body. Come on, dude. And Alan Scott Green Lantern, he looks terrible. Forget about it. These are such a waste because they could just be general releases at a lower price point, or they could have something else in there to justify the expense, rather than just a trading card base that, again, nobody cares about. But here they are, and I guess if you want them, you gotta pay up $30. Well, I'm sure a fool and his money are soon parted, but personally, no thank you. And finally, the #1 worst thing about DC Multiverse in 2023 was the Batman Batmobile 2-pack based on the 1989 movie with Michael Keaton. This should have been the hottest DC Multiverse release of 2023, and instead it turned out to be an utter mess because, one, it was made a gold label release. Big surprise there. And then it was made an Amazon exclusive. And guess what? It went up for pre-order, and within about 3 minutes, the scalpers got all of them the first time around. Then a little bit later, McFarlane Toys decided to be generous and put it up again for pre-order, and guess what? It sold out in about 5 minutes the second time. Meanwhile, they were bragging about making limited quantities of this, even though everybody wanted it. This isn't really rocket science. If they want to have a successful toy, make enough of it for people to get it if they want it. It cost $75. Everybody wanted it. It was an obvious slam dunk, and they couldn't handle it. It's pretty obvious after botching a release as desirable, as hot, as much as everybody wanted it, that McFarlane Toys is ill-suited to handle the DC license. There is no excuse for what happened here with this release, and it was so difficult to obtain that many people to this day still have not gotten it. Effectively, this became more or less a scalper exclusive, as do many of the exclusives that you see on websites such as Amazon and Target and Walmart. Well, soulmates, what do you think the worst things about DC Multiverse in 2023 were? Do you agree with everything that I said, or do you have some different opinions of your own? I don't know, guys. I would love to hear from you in the comment section about this. If you'd like to learn more about the new DC Multiverse Batman and Robin Mr. Freeze Collect-a-Build Wave, you can check out that video here, soulmates.